Hello, everyone. It's Charlene Lee, and today I'm going to be talking about the three questions that everyone in your organization should be able to answer. And I developed these three questions because one day I arrived at a company. I was giving a speech that day, and I asked them for permission to just wander around the organization and to ask people some questions just to get to know them, understand what they were up to, just understand the state of the organization. And I was asking people like, so what's your strategy? What are you trying to do? How are you aligned around your mission and your purpose? And it was astounding because what I found is that almost nobody could answer those basic questions. Like, what's your purpose and your mission? What do you do? And how are you trying to support that mission? And it really struck me that the top leaders in the organization were very clear, but it wasn't, for various reasons, translating down into the rest of the organization. And so what I want to talk about today is this is what are some of the biggest challenges that you have around creating alignment? Alignment around your strategy, around your purpose, your mission, just everything about the organization, why you even exist. How do you create alignment up and down and throughout the entire organization? So please take some time. I would love to hear from you. Share where you're coming from today. It's always interesting to see where people are coming in from, but also share some of the biggest challenges you have in driving alignment. And the reason why I'm focusing this today is that if you want to create disruptive change, if you want to be an effective leader, creating exponential change in your organization, then you really need to focus on this one question of how do I make sure that once we figure out what that strategy is, once we figure out where we want to be going, then how do we make sure that everybody is on the same page? And very importantly, how do you do this systematically and intentionally and very strategically? So let me just give you a quick example of what it means to run what I call a tight ship. And this is literally a tight ship. I had the privilege of going on the USS Nimitz and a US aircraft carrier. And one of the things that was astounding is just how open they were to allowing people from the outside. And I was going with a group of other bloggers, 16 of us, all together going aboard this ship. And we wanted to make sure that we could just ask people whatever questions we wanted to, and also that we could publish anything, because after all, this is the military. What can we talk about, what we can't talk about? And the PR person said to us, you can ask anybody any question. Feel free to write up anything you want to have because we have nothing to hide. And in fact, this is your Navy. So you should be able to ask any question of us because we are here in service of you. Which was great because we then proceeded to spend 24 hours on the aircraft carrier, sticking our microphones and cameras into every single person's face that we could find, and asking these service members questions like, why did you join? What's your purpose? What's your mission? And what's your role in particular for accomplishing that mission? And it was astounding because every single person, no matter whether they were in the chain of command or they were a frontline service person who was there, who had just literally come onto the Navy and been there for just a few months, just 18, 19-year-olds. And every single one of them could answer these questions with clarity and with confidence. It was extraordinary because one of the things that was amazing to me is they knew what their job was. They knew what their mission was. And even more interestingly, they had a second job that they were responsible for. Say they had a primary job, but they were also a backup for another job because when things blow up and things do, there was always a backup and a redundancy. This even applied to the fighter pilots who, again, are up in the sky and the fighter jets. When they're on the ship, they take on another responsibility in another department. And every single person was clear about what their job was and how it contributed to the mission. So let's come back to traditional organizations, because when I look at organizations, what is it that they do? How do they actually create that alignment? And there are three questions that, in particular, people I think need to understand and to be able to answer. And the people who need to answer this is every single person in your organization. Because if you are not aligned on these three questions, that you are not clear on what you are trying to do. And the reason why this is so important is because the clarity of who you are serving, your strategy of how to serve them, and the role that everyone plays in executing that strategy is absolutely key. So let me go through them. I have some slides I can share with you too as well. And if you like to get these slides, you're more than welcome to come and get them at my site, charlinglee.com/3 questions. And the first question is, are you absolutely clear about who is your future customer? Not just who your customer is today, but who is your customer going to be in the future? And the reason why this is so important and frankly so hard is that when you see most organizations, everybody has a different definition of who the customer is depending on where they sit. So if I'm in sales, it's pretty clear who my customer is. But if I'm in service or I'm in marketing or in finance or HR, we think about our customers as very different. And so when you're starting from that base, how do you even think about a unified future? Because if you can't think about what that future looks like and who you're trying to serve and have great clarity on that, it's very difficult to make sure you align on what your strategy is going to be able to serve them. And one of the best ways I have found to be able to create this, I clearly who this future customer is to use what I call empathy maps. And empathy maps are fantastic because they allow you to define who this future customer is, not by their demographics or their roles and responsibilities, but more about what is it that they think, say, feel, and do. I mean, you can stand in their shoes and literally understand what drives them, what is on their minds. Then you can begin to understand them and then to serve them. And this empathy map is really powerful because you may not remember in the thick of things that you're doing every day all the details about that customer, but you will remember the feelings that they have, the frustrations, the joys that they want to have in their lives and then the work. And that is a great way then to be able to spread that throughout the entire organization. So I just want to say hello to Jay. Yeah, again, Jay's great to see you, Jay. And just commenting, yes, you need to be absolutely perfectly clear, crystal clear about who that future customer is, because it's so important. And Jay, I know you're doing some great work with thinking about teachers and mental health and students. So really, really clear about who that future customer is, how you want to serve them is really serving your business. And I want to say hello to Dr. M from India and also Maestro coming in from Brazil. Thank you so much for joining. And again, I encourage you to share what is going on with your organization. What are ways that you are dealing and creating that alignment in your organization? What are some best practices even or challenges that you have? So one of the things again around uh, future customers is if you want to get even more advanced with this, is understand what is the impact you want to have on that future customer. What are the ways that we hope because of our interactions with them, the experiences we create for them? What's the impact going to be on them? So when you have this crystal clear vision of who the future customer is, then the next question to be able to answer is what is our strategy going to be able to meet them where they are? And the strategy is so important because this is much more about how you're going to get there. You're here today. How are you going to get there in the future? And in particular, what are the things you're going to do and not do? Because you can do anything, but you can't do everything. So what will you do and what won't you do? And one of the best tools I've seen of this, I talked to one leader who said, we're going through this huge transformation. And to create alignment, what he did is something called the 6-quarter walk. I love this idea because he says, this quarter today, the first quarter that we're in today, this is what we're going to accomplish. We're going to do these things. And by the end of the quarter, you will be able to do X, Y, and Z because he's being really clear about what they're going to deliver as part of this huge change they're going through. And that sends two messages. It says to the people who are dragging their feet and not wanting to go along to say, look, you need to get on board with this quarter because guess what? In the next quarter, in the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, we're going to keep going. So unless you're here and on the bus with us, you're going to get left behind because we're not staying here anymore. It also serves a second purpose because we all have these people in the organization, and you may be one of them, where we just want to go faster, go further than our organization is ready for. And the sixth quarter walk says, yeah, I get it. I know you really want to do that, but we're not ready. We're going to be able to do that 3 quarters from now, or 4 quarters from now, or even maybe 6 quarters from now, but we can't do that right now. I need you to hold back. I know it's so hard, but we're going to get there. So that's what a strategy is. A strategy is simply saying, we're here today, we're going here, we're going out there someplace in the future, and we're going to take this path along the way. And it's a great signal to everybody say, we need to be on this path because if you're off over there, like, why are you over there? Why? That's not the place we want to be. We need to be on this path because this is where we want to go. It doesn't mean the path can't change. Doesn't mean that you can find some alternative routes, better routes to be able to get there. But let's be really clear, this is where we want to be. And so the 6 quarter walk then leads to a very key part, which is the third question, which is what is it that each person is going to do to contribute to the execution of that strategy? Because it boils down to, do I know what my role is going to be to make sure that this strategy that's serving the future customer is absolutely going to be a success? Am I doing everything I can do to make that possible? So one of the key things that I think is so important is to understand really what is it that each person has to do. And there's no better way than to look at somebody's dashboard. Again, first of all, let's assume they have a dashboard or some sort of metrics of ways that they're determining and measuring their success. Because each person wants to know, am I doing a good job or not? And the best thing to do is to make sure that's aligned. Whatever it is that they're doing is aligned and very clearly aligned and tied to the strategy. So one person who I was speaking with, a CEO, I asked him, "What's on your dashboard? What's in particular on your upper left hand side of your dashboard, and that top corner that you have there?" And does it reflect who your future customer is and what your strategy is? And he kind of gave this kind of sheepish laugh, and he said, "It's inventory turns. That's my most important metric. It's up here." And he said, "That's the wrong metric." It really hit him that historically that had always been there because as a manufacturer, as a retailer, he was very keen on understanding how inventory was turning. But he goes, that doesn't tell me anything about the future. It doesn't tell me anything about the customers. It's a backward looking metric. So he moved his dashboard around so he could be really focused on understanding who these future customers were and also how the strategy was actually working to serve those customers. And his dashboard was so much more clearly aligned with the key points of his strategy, the levers that he could pull in order to make that strategy come to life. So this is a key question because one of the hardest parts about creating alignment is making sure that the strategy permeates and trickles down all the way through every part of the organization. And when that's working, then people at the front lines feel very empowered, very connected back to the strategy. When they see a future customer come on board, when they see that person coming in and they recognize them, they can call everybody else in the organization and say, hey, everybody, come gather around. I have a future customer here. We're talking to them right now. This is what we're learning. Let's understand them, see them, and understand them in a deeper way than we could before. So I see that there's some comments here. And I'm sorry. So, Jay, you're saying that the link to the 3 questions doesn't work. That's not good. So I will look for that and then put it into the comments and make sure that it's the right one that's working. I'm so sorry about that. It was, I thought, charlinglee.com/3-questions, but I will check that after the stream and make sure that works. Okay. So thank you, Jay, for letting me know that. All right, some other comments here. Jay Johnson is saying shared identity of customers, employees, both all want to be treated with dignity. Such a great point. Because in the end, our employees are the best connection we have to our customers. They are the ones who actually create those great experiences. And they want to be treated with dignity. And when we treat them well, then they're going to treat our customers well too, as well. Dr. M has a couple comments here, uh, just about the rate of technology changing. It makes sense to take a look at this one quarter at a time. Absolutely true. And speaking to that particular leader, one of the things that he said was, I again, we have our plans, but we know things change constantly. So what was interesting is the first quarter would happen and they would make some modifications to the second quarter, maybe. Things were pretty fixed, but in many ways. But further out that they went, the further out, the more things were likely to change pretty drastically because of things that they were learning in that current quarter. And what was fascinating to me is each quarter, they would extend the sixth quarter. So they would add another quarter to the end because they had better visibility at that point of what could be accomplished 18 months out. So that's a great point. Um, Let's see, the other thing, yep, here we go. This is the issue is I didn't have the backslash in there, so thank you very much for, correcting that. It's charlene.com/3 dash questions and then the slash at the end. So thank you, Jay, for correcting that, and again, I'll make sure it's in the comments so that it's the right link. All right, so just a couple last things that I want to, just emphasize here. And that is when you're looking at these questions, it may seem like an impossible task to ask that every single person in your organization can understand what your strategy is. It feels like in some ways that it's going to be such a monumental thing. There's no way we can create that alignment. And I want to encourage you to think about just the fact is that every single one of your employees wants to have that alignment. They want to know what the strategy is. They want to know how they can contribute to that strategy. They want to know where we are heading. Again, in talking to so many employees, this is not a barrier for many of them. Even if they're disengaged and disaffected, they at the core, the reason why they come to work is not just to get a paycheck, but to also hopefully make some meaningful contribution to the organization and to society. So you start with that assumption that people really want to be able to answer these three questions, then it's incumbent upon you as a leader to make those answers clearly available. And when I talk to leaders about why they don't do this, it's because they themselves are not able to answer those three questions. So start with those three questions again. And I'm just going to put them up here again to just make sure you see them. They are: who is your future customer? What's the strategy we're going to take to be able to meet their needs? And then what is my individual contribution? What is my dashboard? How am I going to help make that be successful? And it's your job as a leader, frankly, to be able to answer each of these three questions for yourself, for your team members and executive teams, for everybody up and down and throughout the organization. Because when you have this capability, then what you have creating is a clear sense of purpose and mission about what we are trying to do. And when you have that, so many other problems melt away. All the issues around, like, people are pursuing their own personal agendas. Well, there's no place for a personal agenda because it's so clear that you're not on the same page as everyone else and you're working a different to-do list. You're working a different criteria list. So this is the key thing around creating alignment. It is absolutely crucial, absolutely important that you create this. We oftentimes as leaders are focused on the strategy, the technologies, all this high level stuff. But in the end, none of that matters if you cannot create alignment up and down throughout your organization to execute on that strategy for your future customer. All right, so that's what I have for you for today. I encourage you to take a look. Again, hopefully you can download those slides, use them as you would like. Stay in touch and let me know in the comments also if you have any additional thoughts. I will be taking a look at them later today. And then also encourage you to join me for the next live stream next Tuesday here again at 9 o'clock, my usual time Pacific. And we'll be talking about how do you know you're a leader? And this is one of my favorite topics. It is not the fact that you have a title. In fact, the title itself is just one of the ways that can, quote, define you as a leader, but it's more about how you show up in the mindset that you take into that session. So this is going to be a great session for people who may not be in a, quote, leadership role, but it's also very important for leaders to understand what is their base of power and influence too. So hope to see you next week and have a great week until then. Take care.